A lot of critics, they'll look to the ordering of the fossil record as evidence against young Earth creation and evidence for large scale evolution. They'll ask questions like, why don't we find rabbits in the Cambrian or shark teeth in the Cambrian? What basically, what's a good response, Dr. Grady, to what we see in terms of the order of the fossils?
Well, there are good reasons that the general order of the fossils is in the order that would fit the evolutionary worldview. Uh, but it's not because there was an evolutionary process. It's not because there were millions and billions of years. First of all, the inconsistent things that would contradict that. We find sea life fossilized in every layer. You find fossil T Rexes with clams. Well, what is the only worldwide event that could cause a T Rex to die in a flood and be buried with marine organisms? It would have to be a worldwide flood. One can literally look at the fossil record and say it's nothing but a big window of fossil clams. But there's the other kind of contradictions that go along with it. Yes, the fossils do tend to be in what the evolutionary process they try to sell, but it makes sense from a creation standpoint. After all, during a flood, clams don't have legs. And so they're going to get buried where they are. But many are going to be ripped up in these tidal tsunamis, mixed in with the wet mud and the dead animals. And that's why you find marine creatures in every single layer of the fossil record. Now, why do we find the general order of the evolution? Well, again, creatures have a brain. That is to say, everything from salamanders and shrews to dinosaurs and people. And again, they have a soul, they have an intellect, emotion, will. And as the waters are rising, what are they going to do? They're going to try to go to the highest piece of ground they can find. But of course, the little creatures have little legs and they can't travel as far. And they're going to tend to be buried sooner, where the bigger creatures and the more mobile creatures are going to move to higher and higher ground in between the rising tides. And there's plenty of evidence that that's exactly what happened with the dinosaurs. Footprints, nests, and so forth that we find, that they are trying to go to higher ground and they are being buried by rising tides, as each tide being higher than the previous one deposits mud on top of nests, on top of tracks, and so forth. So I don't know if anybody listening was a child at any time, but I think they were. And you ever play King of the Hill or King of the Mountain or some game like that, where you got on top of a mound and others tried to take you off and replace you, right? Well, the same thing happens during the flood. The more intelligent, the larger creatures are going to go to the higher ground. And if people can't get to higher ground, they're going to try to build boats, which of course was a useless exercise, but they're going to drown nonetheless. But if you take a look at the sequence that we find generally in the fossil record, while it does track with the evolutionary view, it also tracks very well with the creation view. So you see, creationists and evolutionists, we have the same evidence. What we have is two different interpretations of that evidence. And then you ask the question in science, well, which one of the two do the facts fit best? And creation wins every time.